Today we are going to talk about how to make a scrunchie. You can use them as like bracelets or still hair accessories, and you can make them in a variety of different sizes and fabrics. So find some scrap fabric. This is something that I just had laying around from chopping for a crop top. So this is the bottom of a shirt and it's a knit material, so it's stretchy. So to complete this project, we will need our scrap fabric, a hair tie, which this is an old stretched out one that I've used a lot, and you can also use elastic. If you don't have that, a hair tie works as well. And some hand sewing needles, you'll only need one. I'm gonna use some contrasting threads so we can see what I'm doing as I'm sewing, and some scissors, and also a safety pin. Try not to use one of the teeny tiny ones. The bigger the better in terms of safety pins, and you'll see why later. So to make our scrunchie, if we're gonna do a small, we're gonna measure out 2.5 inches by 20 inches. If we're doing a large, we'll do 3.5 inches by 22 inches. And we are gonna choose a side and press it over just a little bit. You can hand press this or press it with an iron. So I'm just gonna use my fingers and I'm just gonna press it down. Next, we will fold this in half. So right sides will be together, and we're gonna pin it so we can sew it. I went ahead and folded in half so the print is facing itself, kind of like a taco, and I've pinned it in place. Now we're gonna stitch it all the way down this line. Our next step is to turn this right side out so that the print is showing. And to do that, we're gonna take our safety pin. Remember, the bigger the better on these. You don't want a teeny tiny safety pin, and you'll see why. We're going to pin the end. I recommend doing the end that's folded over. And get a little chunk of fabric right there. No less than about like 1/4 of an inch. And we are going to turn it right side out. And by doing that, we are just pushing the pin into the fabric and just slowly turning it into itself. This takes some time. You can press this to make it more flat and crisp looking. That will make a scrunchie that looks kind of more like this. Or if you don't press it, it'll be more fluffy, kind of like this edge right here. Next, we're going to thread our elastic. So I'm using an old hairband that's kind of stretched out, and I'm gonna cut it right where that little seam is. I'm gonna stick my pin into it, and we're gonna thread it through. So keep in mind, you don't want the end that isn't pinned to get lost inside. So you want to keep that on the outside. There it is. So keep in mind, I held on to the end of this while pulling it around. And now we're gonna tie it off. If you have elastic that's flat, like you bought some elastic and it's about 1/4 inch, you can sew this. So what you would want to do is hold it together, you can pin it, and then go over it with a hand stitch or a sewing machine a couple of times. I'm gonna just tie these. I'm gonna do a little square knot. I'm gonna pull it really tight too. And this will take a little space out of the diameter of the hair tie, but that's okay, because it's already stretched out. Pull it really tight. Now we're gonna tuck the raw edge into the folded edge. So this is the edge that we folded a tiny little hem, and this is the raw edge. And see how mine's coming apart? I did not stitch mine securely enough. So we're gonna try to tuck it in past the point where it's coming apart. And if it helps you to pin this, go for it. I am just going to try to line up these two seams and go from there. So I'll start on the inside so it hides the tail of the thread, and try to make sure I am getting both layers at the same time. And go all the way around. And here we have our brand new scrunchie. This was a scrap of fabric a few minutes ago. You can use this as a bracelet or as a hair accessory. They're pretty cool, and feel free to experiment with the width of the fabric. This is more like 6 inches wide, whereas this is only 2.5. Also, if you have really thick hair, you might want to make your elastic longer, and probably around like 6 or 7 inches. So just experiment with different widths and lengths and see what you can make.
Hey guys, Jessie here for your weekly book chat. This week I'm only going to recommend one thing because it's that good of a thing. I'm recommending Displacement. It's a graphic novel about internment camps during World War II. It's a really great book that if you read George Takei's They Called Us Enemy, you're really going to get into this one. If you haven't read that, I do recommend that as well, but this is a great book to read along with that, or instead of that, or just in general. So the story is of a girl who goes back in time and ends up at an internment camp with her grandmother. So she's able to meet her grandmother in a very different situation, and experience what it was like for Asian Americans who were stuck in internment camps during World War II. It's really poignant because it connects today and yesterday. This graphic is beautiful, like it's drawn well, the story is great, there's music connected, like all these things that you really love. But then at the end, she also talks about actionable steps. So she connects it with what's going on today on the United States borders and all these different things that are happening now. So you feel empowered after reading this, and it gives you these really great steps and it makes you really think. So go to your library webpage, put this book on hold, or get the e-copy or something, because this is a great graphic. You're going to run through it really fast. And then when you're done, go ahead and go to our reader advisory page and ask us for something else. Hope you guys are having a great week. Talk to you soon.
Hey, what's going on, people? It's your man Rashad checking in for a Southern Word Minute. So I'm excited about this series. We're going to be talking to Southern Word mentors about the workshops that they're offering virtually right now. These are free workshops, and had to kick it off with my girl, Jackie Swift. Jackie, tell us a little bit about your workshop and what it is that you have going on.
Hi, you guys. My workshop is called The Power of the Pen, and it is on Thursdays from 4 o'clock to 5:30 p.m., and it is all about getting out of your head and onto the page. People should come to this workshop because whether you are a seasoned writer or if you just started writing yesterday, or maybe you don't write at all, it's fun for everyone. We talk a lot. We do a lot of discussion on current events as well as mental health check-ins, and everyone's voice is heard. So if you want to find your voice and you want to find ways that are effective, to use your voice, then I would definitely come to my workshop.
All right, there it is. You heard it first right here. Power of the Pen on Thursdays. Virtually go to southernword.org to get more information and have your young people come out and be a part of this workshop. Again, we are all about helping us to continue to push forward in this time and this season. All right, thank you, Jackie. All right, y'all. Peace.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm your Studio NPL film mentor, and it's time for another film challenge. So remember, on our film challenges, you want to make sure your movie is less than 2 minutes long and it is family friendly. All right, here's your prompt. The characters in your story are going to hear a sound, and they're going to try to find this sound. The closer they get to the sound, the louder it's going to get. But when they discover it, it is not going to be what they expected. So that is your prompt. Image. When it comes to making great images, it starts with a single frame. And directors love to find creative and interesting ways to put a frame inside a frame. So your task is to do an opening shot or a closing shot, having a frame inside a frame. Now, thinking about your story, what I want you to consider is dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is when your audience knows something that your characters do not. A great example in film is the movie Titanic. Because we all knew as viewers it was not going to end well for them, but they still got on that ship. So it kind of adds this tension and this suspense. That's what dramatic irony does. It adds tension and suspense. Remember, your audience knows something that your characters don't. So I want you to include some sort of dramatic irony in your film. Okay, so good luck with all of that. And I hope that I get to see your movies. When you finish, you can email them to studionplnashville@gmail.com. Or if you upload them, just hashtag Studio NPL. Good luck.
Hey, what's going on, people? It's your man Rashad checking in for another edition of Southern Word Minute. I am joined today by Southern Word mentor Sean. Sean's going to tell us a little bit about his workshops and about what you can expect. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, man? I run 3 different workshops, and in these different workshops, you can learn how to produce music. The first one's called Bring Song Ideas to Life. It's on Tuesdays from noon to 1 p.m. The next one's Radio Ready from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. on Wednesdays, and then Epic Effects on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. So the whole thing is like you start and you write a song, and then you build it with different sound effects. You try to make it sound even cooler. So join me. These 3 workshops are free and they're super fun, and I want to show you a little taste of what we do. All right, so this is a software you can use to make a beat. So if you look on the right side, we have a whole list of cool beats and sounds that are already recorded for us. So you just got to drag it in, drop it in, and then hit spacebar. There we go. We got our first sound. Next thing you want to do is be like, okay, well, I need another instrument. So maybe we'll try piano. Let's kind of scroll through and see if we can find one that we like. Pretty fast. You just go through until you find something that you like. You drop it in, you play it together. So you just go through this process, right? You choose different instruments, you layer them together, and at the end, you finally have a full song.
That was great, man. So listen, if you are interested in these workshops, you can definitely sign up at southernword.org. For Sean, I am Rashad. This has been another Southern Word Minute, y'all.
Hi, I'm Miss Magda. I'm the teen librarian at the Bordeaux Branch Library. And today we're going to talk about the most basic components of a song, that is, the notes. So each section of tones is divided into 8 notes called an octave. When you look at a piano, the distinction is really easy to see. After all, you've got these 3 white keys plus the 2 black keys, and then 4 white keys plus 3 black keys. And so that means you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you've got the 8th one that's going to start the process over again. Each of these notes have a name. And since the very center of the piano is called middle C, we're going to start there. You got C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And just to make us all feel better, we start over with C. So if I play this C and this C, you can kind of hear how the frequencies align. These are the same note. They sound the same. Every octave has the same frequency. So every C is the same as the other. For example, or as I go up. Same thing with every G is the same as another, and so on. So if I played middle C and another note, that sounds off, doesn't it? This is called dissonance. This is not the same note. When you play the notes in order, it's called a scale. When you play only the white keys, which are called whole steps, it's called the key of C. Scales may sound differently by adding half steps, the black keys on the piano, also known as sharps and flats. We mentioned major and minor keys, which create the tone of your song. The half steps make all the difference in the world. So, sharps are always higher than the whole notes. Flats are always lower. So that means if someone asked for a C sharp, that's the black key, that's a half step higher than C. So that's C sharp. If someone asked for a B flat, that would be a half step lower than B. The tricky thing about the flats and sharps is it can be the same note. For example, C sharp, half step higher than C, is also the same black key as D flat, which is half step lower than D. Don't worry, you won't often run into the double identity thing in one song, so it's just a fun fact. Let's hear it all together. Or the C sharp scale. Excuse me. So all of you have probably heard of the Do Re Mi song from Sound of Music. It's not just a fun, silly song. It's also a way to learn how a scale works. Back in the 18th century, Sarah Glover and John Spencer Kirwan made up the solfege syllables. That's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then it added hand gestures to help their music students understand scales. So it goes like this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you don't even have to be a perfect singer to get it. So why don't you try it and see if you can add in the Kirwan hand scale with the solfege syllables. And also, next time you see a piano, see if you can correctly identify all of the notes. I'm Miss Magda. I'm the teen librarian at the Bordeaux Library, and hopefully I will see you soon. Otherwise, just remember, we've got curbside pickup at 8 different branches. So if you'd like to check out some items, give us a call and we'll be happy to see you.
Hey friends, Ashley here. I am just hanging out in my backyard with my little leave no trace fire. I'm going to show you a photo of this in a minute. It's called a mound fire, and it's just one of the many strategies we can use when we're trying to have campfires, have fun outside, and still leave very little trace. So first, when we are going outdoors and we want to have a campfire, we need to be asking ourselves a few questions. And one of those is, should we be doing this? Is there a burn ban in effect? Like if there's a drought, or maybe you're in a western state and it's very dry and arid and wildfires are very common there, definitely keep that in mind. And if the answer is no and there's no burn ban in place, next we want to ask, is there fuel around and is it plentiful? So we want to use like sticks and little tree limbs, things that have fallen and they're on the ground. So you definitely don't want to pull things out of trees or cut things down, because that is still habitat. So if it's on the ground and it's small, like no larger than like an adult size wrist, we can go for it. Also, if you have access to a fire ring, like at a pre-made campsite, definitely use it. Those are pretty safe and they're awesome, and you don't have to worry about things kind of falling apart and rolling down onto the ground from the fire. This is an example of a mound fire. And so the first layer, since we don't want to scar the yard, this is in our backyard, we've got a plastic bag, a garbage bag, you can use a tarp. We have 3 to 5 inches of dirt, and then on top of that you'll have a small fire. So you're not going to want to use like a big bonfire like you would normally think of in like a fire ring when you're camping, but this is a really great way to leave no trace. So I'm not going to make the fire very big because I'm not going to need it very long. And once I'm finished, I will make sure that the fire is all the way out by pouring water on it or just like watching it until it's totally finished. Then I can either get rid of the ashes by digging like a cat hole and getting rid of them, or through another way. And then I will also put the dirt back where I found it and take up the plastic bag, and hopefully there won't be a scar there. We don't want to bring firewood from home. So if we're traveling somewhere and we're going camping in a wilderness area, if you bring firewood from home, it can hide insects that are not native to the area that you're going to. And they might have an unfair advantage over the native bugs or insects. And they might take over, and we don't want to do that. So definitely buy wood where you're going camping, or find some heat-treated wood, which is pretty common. So one of the last things I just want to mention is never leave a campfire unattended, and try not to burn any trash in them. So when we think of like cans or bottles or anything plastic, it takes a very, very hot temperature to burn those, and a campfire is just not going to cut it. So you're basically just leaving trash behind for someone else to find later. So keep in mind, sometimes the best way to avoid leaving an impact is to not have a fire at all. If you're not able to find the fuel that you need, or maybe you're in a really arid area like a desert or somewhere out west where wildfires are really easy to start, we might want to avoid doing this altogether and instead spend that time playing fun games like card games, or my personal favorite is called Pass the Pigs, and it is a pair of little pig dice, and depending on how you roll them, you get different points. To find out more, just look up lnt.org or at Leave No Trace Center on Instagram. I wonder if I could get some s'mores delivered.